gotta see how long it takes for everything to explode. Hoping that I don't have the connection issues that I had last time. That remains to be seen. Where was I? This will take a minute. There are 3 things I'm planning on doing with this right now, and I don't think any of them should be an issue, but we'll see. It always takes longer to run on the first try. I can probably get rid of all this though. I'm not currently working on video editing or anything of the nature. Greetings, Erdrick. I hope I am loud enough to be heard, because that is always a concern every time I push the record button. This is really taking its time. It is quiet. I know, okay, that's fine. I know I can hear me, but that doesn't necessarily translate into the actual... Let's try turning that up a bit. Stream being able to hear me. Probably the easiest thing for me to... I should probably add a default emitter. I'll add a default emitter and a default particle type to start with. How do I do that? You'd think I would know this, huh? A little louder, still kind of hard to hear. I guess I can turn it up all the way. I don't like turning the volume up all the way, because then it starts to distort, but... I guess there's always a little knob on the actual microphone itself, which I usually don't mess with, but we'll see if that makes it any better. I can just steal this function, right? Now it's better? Good to know. I only pushed the knob a little bit. I hope that doesn't cause any problems down the line. Can I do this? Oops, can I do this with the type also? It did not like that. I don't know why it didn't like that. Oh, I know why it didn't like that. Okay. I guess I can't do it the fun way. Doing stuff in the middle of... while initialization is still halfway underway is always a little bit risky. That'll do it. 3D horror game, low poly style. Perhaps. I don't actually like horror games though, so that's a hard sell, but perhaps. How do I assign a particle type to an emitter? It's another thing you'd think I would remember. I have been helpful. Thank you. I am glad I have been helpful. .3D is fun. It's just there's not too many resources showing people how to do stuff, which makes it a little more difficult than it otherwise would be. I'm going to go back to doing this the cheating way. Horror games are supposed to be scary. Yeah, see, that's the problem. So I don't like scary stuff, so I don't really want to make a horror game myself. Otherwise, I probably would have tried by now, because that's a simplistic... Alright, well, it didn't crash this time. And it created a default type in emitter. Like, simplistic, low detail, heavily relying on fog horror games is kind of a staple of GameMaker 3D. Except I don't like horror games because I'm a weenie, so I don't really make those. That'll name it, right? How do I should probably... All the default things should probably come after the setup as much as possible. Particle type. I am a terrible developer. This code is very gross, but it should do what I want it to. You've never found a movie scary either. See, you are you are a lot braver than me, Erdrick. That blew up in my face. Was that the wrong variable? It's types plural. That's the absolute lamest way to have a code error. Is to use a singular word versus plural in a variable name. I should just pick one and stick with it. But okay, that did half of what I wanted it to. That should do the other half, right? I think. I've said that like 3 times already, and it hasn't worked any of those times, but you never know. Okay. That has selected a default, that has selected the default type. Okay. Progress. What was the next thing I wanted to do? That's setting it to stream, if enabled. So that's cool. Do I use GitHub? Yes. What were the other things I wanted to do here? I guess particle sprites is an important one. I have a UI for like loading in particle sprites already. I might as well use that rather than making a new one. Do these work in 2D? They kind of do. Not very well. Someone else made a very similar particle system that is intended for 3D. I want to do that next, but first I want to finish this off. But that's probably going to be the next thing that I do because it's very similar to this. That is unrelated. Particles is this one. All right, that should enable the particle graphic window. For some reason, you thought to try 3D on mobile. It should work mostly the same. Yes, but the limitations will come up even faster because generally mobile hardware is not as performant as desktop hardware, and you have to worry about things like battery and stuff. That kind of did what I wanted. Not quite. But 3D itself works. You just have to be even more careful about things like memory management and how many draw calls you're submitting. Will that allow me to click on it? Your phone can emulate Mario Sunshine better than your laptop. Phones have come a long way, but they're still all right, skyboxes should be disabled because that is not relevant here. There's still like constrained by things like battery life and like the amount of heat they produce and that sort of thing. If it works, did I just Did I do this? Okay, well, that works. That's all I wanted. If it works on your phone currently, that is a good start. I know... Like, some modern high-end phones are, like, easily better than the old 7-year-old laptop that's sitting in the corner of my room over there already. And that thing can run 3D games in GameMaker fine, so if that thing can, then modern phones probably can, but still things to consider. Did that answer your question? I don't know if I actually answered your question, because I just started talking and I just kind of kept talking. I guess the next thing to do after that... somewhere there is a list of, like, particle graphics. I answered it enough. That's good enough on my standards. This is a very long list of UI initialization. You know, how about I just cut to the chase and maximize that? What I'm looking for is shape. Alright, that'll add a button. It won't do anything, and it's probably not going to be aligned correctly. Well, it'll be aligned, but it'll be pushing everything else out of the way, which is undesirable. I want to try and fit as many things as possible on the on the main screen here. See, secondary emission button is kind of getting pushed off the bottom. I could always shrink this list. I could also move some stuff underneath this list over here. I don't want to move anything underneath this list over here, though, because I want it to all look the same. I could squish this down a little, I guess. That should give back some space. This was a bit of an annoyance when I was making the thing the first time around, is making everything fit nicely in the UI. Alright, that's not too bad. That should just fit, I think. I really should not have that glass of water on the same desk as all the electronics, but I don't currently have anywhere else to put it. Okay, that fits. Now I need to make it do something. Great program. Glad you think so. Glad you found it useful. I was hoping people would. I wasn't sure. Use sprite. I've never been super good at knowing ahead of time what people, like what software things people are going to find useful. I'm glad that this one seems to have landed. New with generating code. My hope is that people can look at the code that this thing generates and use it to like piece together how a more elaborate particle behavior would work. I don't need that. There are more fancy things. I probably will need that you can do with particles than this, but hopefully by looking at the code that this generates, you'll be able to like see how things fit together. Or just use it to generate an effect quickly. That works too. That's what I was planning on using it for. I don't think there's actually any... Looking for... Okay. Well, I left a warning for myself in the future to use that. And I guess the time is now. Look at other people's code until you understand it. It has to be, like, if you were to look at my code in here, you would probably not understand it if you didn't know anything about code before, because it's a absolute flaming mess. But if you were to look at code that's written well, I think that can go a long way. People who spend more time, like, commenting their code than me, you would probably pick up a thing or two from reading it. I really need to get better at commenting my code. I leave these at the top, these js.comments at the top, but everything else is not a guarantee. Okay, so you're going to want to set the sprite or the shape particle of the particle depending on whether or not that box is checked. Oh, remember another thing I wanted to do was to serialize the whole system, the whole particle system into a buffer. That might be a task for another day. I don't know how long I'm going to be sitting here streaming. That sounds more involved than the other things I want to do. I'll come back to that one. Where is the that is line 451. I'll go back to line 451. Okay. So now when you select the particle type in the list, the value of that checkbox will be updated. Okay, excellent. Oh. Okay, there's kind of a knot there, and that the variable name and the actual thing that the checkbox is doing is kind of referring to separate things. I can fix that. We are not too far along yet. Okay. Now the variable name looks like what it is actually doing. That's another part of code readability. Getting delayed trying to set up the portal system using the world to screen thing. Okay. I was actually picturing something else when you were describing the portal system. That first time a few days, weeks, whatever ago. There should also be a knot. But I'm glad you found that useful. I wasn't expecting projecting a point in world space onto screen space to work for that particular problem, but I guess I could see how it would. Sometimes these solutions to things are not what you expect them to be, indeed. Okay, I'm going to think about how that works in a minute. I'm going to run off to refill this glass of water. I will be back in like 30 seconds. I should probably put this text on the screen just in case. That's not in the middle. All right, I will be back in a minute. I have returned. I need to get rid of that, bring that back. All right, fine. I would say I'll stack it on like a pile of books or something, but that would probably be even worse. But hang on, let me find something else. Okay, it is now sitting on a thing behind me. It may be more likely to fall over than it was a minute ago, but at least then it'll be away from the electronics. I was doing particle sprites. Right? There were a few I'm just gonna clone some more UI here, I think. This will bring up the secondary emission UI. I noticed the stream has dropped a couple frames, but not like a colossal amount this time, which is nice. Because that was happening the last time I was doing this. Okay, so that did indeed bring up the secondary emission UI, because I cloned it instead of actually making a new one. First, the fact that the type list isn't automatically selected bothers me. T_type.list. Now it will be selected by default. Oh, you know what I'm also gonna want to do? Okay, fine. I remember. That won't actually run the code that will select the thing. So the UI won't update. Control G is wonderful. How do I want this to look? I could like draw a picture. I'll just wing it first. First, the only, hang on. All right, so it takes the sprite, it takes a Boolean whether or not you want to animate it, whether or not you want to stretch it. What does stretch do? Stretch the animation to match the particle's lifespan or not. Okay. Or just choose a random subimage. I can do that. In that case, I will make this 2 columns. And all right, that is the list of sprites, and then the point of this is so that if the particle already has one, it'll be selected in the list. It would just sprite. So, but if it doesn't, it won't. Um, let's see if this is at least off to the right start. I feel like there should be a better way for designing UI. Is that the wrong thing? Something's not quite right. That's... what? Line 3? It doesn't like... Oh. Alright. I'll have to find a less dumb workaround for that. Such as not selecting the type emitter by default. Alright, that's more trouble than it's worth. Again, the rest of the user interface is not initialized yet, and bad things happen if you depend on code execution order. So I will just do my best to not depend on code execution order. Oh, I shouldn't have opened my mouth about dropping frames because now it's apparently doing it. Although it looks fine. But YouTube is complaining. Why? No, stop. Help. What was I doing? Alright, particle sprites. What was that menu called? I don't even remember. You'd think this is something I would remember. I think it was like... data, graphics, particles. Okay. I feel like that's spelled wrong, but I can't figure out how it is. You are going to be off, Erdrick? Alright, I will see you around eventually, I am sure. I can safely get rid of the rest of this, probably. We will be moving over to the second column now. There was also what? Animated, stretched, and random. Oh, you know what? That's only 3 parameters. I can make that 1 column. Animated is going to be a true-false checkbox. Stretched and random. Okay, so those are all true falses. This one is that should be good, design-wise. I already know that the particle sprite editor dialog thing works because I used it for other things in this editor aside from particles. Aside from these particles, I should say. But I guess I'll test it all the same. I'm looking for something that can be conceivably called a particle. Okay, that is like animation, but it'll do. All right, well, this looks the way I want it to. Good enough. Now we need to actually do things. Also, dealing with animated sprites is going to be a little bit challenging because I haven't set the rest of the editor up to use animated sprites because I live in the world of texture coordinates. First, couldn't hurt to do that. This is what I think it is, right? Yeah. If this is set to false, what rate does it play at? Does it just play one per frame? I assume it is, because what is delta time? I did not mean to close that. Where am I going? This thing about deselecting the list isn't actually important, is it? Adding tooltips to these things isn't the most, like, difficult task I've ever had to do, but might as well check to see that I like spelled everything right and that there's nothing glaringly obviously wrong, such as the fact that they're all attached to the same tooltip. That's what happens when you copy and paste. How long have I been streaming for? Does it say anywhere? You'd think I would know this. Oh, 45 minutes. Okay, yeah. Makes sense. Okay, those tooltips appear properly. I should probably set them to actually do something now. But first... that's one. Now I need to... That is already a resource name. Because what is naming things? Alright, let's see. That is a... Alright, that should assign the sprite. I just want to see if the user interface responds correctly when I do this. I feel like that's been probably more than half of the actual time I spent working on this, which should probably tell me something about... Alright, good. This should probably tell me something about like where the speed bumps in my workflow are, but what can you do? Next I want animated. These should be the easy parts. Because these are just single variables. It's not going to actually affect the It's not going to affect the way the particles are displayed yet, so I won't bother actually spawning any, but to see if the UI responds properly. And it looks like it is. Yeah, okay. Now we need to actually make it do that thing. Where was the other one? All right, here. So if you are not using a custom sprite, it'll do what it was doing before. Otherwise, what is the actual sprite attached to one of these objects? Dot picture. This will cause a little bit of an issue if you delete one of those and something's still using it, you'll suddenly have an invalid reference. I'll worry about that later. There. This should go in its own script because it's going to be called from several places. Probably something like this. All right, that's that, which is kind of a sprite. All right, that's what they look like now. Okay. Well, they're doing that. Can I play with the alpha a little bit? Start fill transparent, end fill transparent. Yeah, that's kind of cool. All right, now I need to make them do the thing for the others. I think that is everything for now. I love it when things finally fall into place. Like I said, the these three parameters to do with animation aren't really going to do much right now, because all the sprites I import only have one frame. I guess I could modify that also. First, let's do that. That probably wouldn't be hard, right? I know how to mess around with things, with sprites, through code. Where was the one? Particles. This is the code that spawns the particle dialog. Should I... There's not really a point in having 2 dimensions of frames for anything that isn't like an NPC sprite. Do I want to deal with this now or later? See how deep we can go, I guess. It is a little ridiculous. It is a little ridiculous how like elaborate this is when it probably doesn't need to be. Does that return a value? That returns a data image. I guess I'll call it that. And what is the temporary folder? It's just okay. I feel like it should be useful for more than code, though. Yeah, let's make that useful for more than code. Okay. Just watch that break something in unexpected ways. Actually, wait. Duplicate? Okay. I never use that function, but when I do... Alright, the only thing that would actually affect that would be... this. Image.picture. What is it, -1 to add all frames? Alright, well that's not too important since I have... But I still feel like there should be a way to. Alright, now that should give us the... that should give us the sprite divided up into pieces, which will also cause things to break in certain places, possibly, if I'm not careful, but I can deal with that. Let's go. I'm not going to expect this to work on the first try, but we'll see if it does. If it does, that'll be nice. I like it when things work on the first try when I don't expect them to. Let's see first. So like there's a lot of possible ways to end up with like null references here, but okay. That is a string expecting a number. Did I give it the arguments wrong? Why is it not closing? There we go. Oh, those are in the wrong order. Alright, this should divide it up into pieces. Again, there's a lot of places elsewhere in the program where this could go wrong, but I'll deal with those other pieces later. Didn't break. And it looks like, oh, I know. Okay, one, it should probably call this code in here as well. Forgot about that. And two, picture with frames. So that it's actually using the sprite with animation frames. I suddenly kind of feel like instead of using a using one of these sliders for things like direction and gravity, Let's set that to 0 real quick. I feel like I should make an actual, like, radio dial for that. Later. Okay, so it's drawing the correct sprite frame. And if I animate it, it is not doing it with animation. Is that... Oh, it is. Is it? Oh, it is. But only with animation stretched. That's not how particles work, is it? Admittedly, this isn't the best sprite that I could be using here because the frames are very similar and it's kind of easy to tell them apart. Kind of hard to tell them apart if you're not looking super closely. Let me pick a different one. The frog is going to be my next particle sprite. If MS Paint ever opens. That's 32, okay. You are going to be the particle sprite I test instead. So if we see you jump, that's interesting. So it's only actually playing if I'm checking that box. I am using the right variables, right? Yeah. Animated, stretched, and random. So those are the right variables. Is that just how it works? If I if I like duplicate this and we can wait for MS Paint again. Like that. So that it's a little bit longer of an animation. That's what, 8 frames? And I gotta turn off gravity again. I mean, kind of. That's interesting. Do sprites have a built-in speed? Sprite set speed. Is that based on this? Hang on. Maybe that's based on this, since sprites in GameMaker Studio 2 now have that property. What is the, it's just .a speed, which is intended to be frames per second, I think. What was it? Sprite speeds frames per second. Let's try that. I don't know if that's the problem or not. I was not expecting to work on this during stream today. But since I suspect I know how, and since it's probably going to be helpful to people who want to use this, I might as well, right? That'll be 8. Let's make it 10 frames per second. No. Okay. If I animate you, that didn't do it. I think I know why. One, because that didn't actually set the value. At least I don't think it did it? Hang on. Interesting. That should have done it. I see people are leaving, probably because this has gotten into the problem solving part of the stream, which is somewhat less interesting. The code looks like it should have done what I wanted it to, though. But indeed, the box over there is not updating. And I don't know why. It is L frame speed, right? It should be. It's working for the other ones. It's not setting the value. Is it getting like reset somewhere down here? Yeah, that's annoying. That's one mystery solved. I still think I feel like that should still be working though, because that just affected the display and not the actual logic of the program. Alright, it says it should be playing 10 frames per second. And they're still falling. I would like to make them bigger so that I could see a little better. They seem to be... Are they... Are they actually animating? But they're doing something. That looks really weird. Frames per second. Alright, it looks like they're just... They're animating at 1 frame per step. And there's not much I can do about that. Alright, well... I won't worry about that then. You can't control the speed at which these things animate. Unless like animated is actually a number value and not supposed to be a Boolean, but let's see if that's actually the case. I have been streaming for 1 hour 20 minutes today. I don't know how long I want to go. I wanted to get some other things done today, but I ended up getting hung up on this for a while. Oops. Come on. Okay, so their user did not actually have your number of frames set. Okay, so that is a Boolean because anything less than 0.5 is false and anything greater than or equal to 0.5 is true. I'm also noticing that if you have an invalid sprite index, it will just default to the shape. At least I think that's what happened. Is that good enough for now, though? I feel like that's good enough for now. All right, let's get on to the exporting that. Where is that? That's probably near the top. Export code. Okay, so you guys are in the clear. I'm starting to work on code again, on visual stuff again, rather. Sprite. This will be okay. Hang on. Exporting code is fun. Believe me. I think that's it. Ah. Oh, I did also remember that I wanted to link the link the sprites to the particles in a slightly safer way. First, what was the demo sprite project that I made? Particle demo. All right, so let's try this. This doesn't really matter because that's where the responsibility of making the sprites look good gets handed off from this editor to your code. But All right, we're now dropping frogs. Let's see what happens when we copy this and paste it into this thing over here. Oh wait, I need to actually add that sprite. It is just SPR frog. Where was the file? There we go. Okay, so that will be that. I need to, okay, fine. Fun little trick of GameMakers is that you're allowed to do that. I should probably get rid of the magenta. Why did it not get rid of the magenta? Is it gonna ask if I want to get rid of the magenta? It didn't. Okay, it used to ask if you wanted to get rid of the magenta. I guess I can do it manually. Edit, there we go. I'm not sure if the little bit of purple around there, around the frog's toe there, is a mistake or not. I should probably ask him, the guy who drew these, if I'm supposed to replace that with another color. Alright, so SPR frog is now a resource, right? I should probably add a note how to use the, how to use those. What's going on? That little detail. Really? Oh, that's because I was doing this myself. For some other purpose. Alright, well, they're animating. They're doing that. Okay, so the export works. That is probably not the best sprite I could have chosen, but it was the first one that I had on hand. I will have it show a message. I will have it show a message. Should I? Where will I have it show a message? Is there a, do I have a system for warnings? Like editor warnings in here? That's not how you spell warning. It's not, I don't really, okay. Alright, I won't show a warning then because I don't feel like adding that system as well. have a feeling that's going to be a point of confusion either way, but it'll do the job. Can't say I didn't warn you. There's also the matter of I kind of feel like if you double click the list of particle sprites, you should just open up that dialog. I wanted to use my own references so to make it easier to detect if an instance does not exist. Instead of a direct reference to the instance, it's going to be an ID that I gave it. Alright, that should get rid of a potential null reference, and when I generate the code, this should get rid of another potential null reference. Something like that, I think. What do I have to test? There's still one more thing that could potentially go wrong. I don't think it will, though. That's not really what I was looking for. Okay. The dimensions are a little messed up there. That's fine. Ah! Alright. I updated one part of code, but not the other. That should be good. What were the other things I wanted to do today? I wrote them down in the stream description. Alright, I only got one of the three things done, sort of. Oops. I keep dismissing that. That looks very weird. Anyway. If everything still works, that's mainly what I'm looking for. And I didn't give it the right name. Okay, so it exports properly. I think that's all I wanted to do for now. I might as well... Did I write down tooltips? I did not. Might as well only write that once. Okay, I think that's good. I think I'm done with sprites. I am just going to see if the tooltip looks good. Okay, that looks good. Yeah. All right. Also, hang on. Yeah, okay, good. Clicking that doesn't do anything if there's no particle selected. Okay, I will commit that change, and we will be on to... This should just be a little recursive check. Or maybe even iterative, because I don't know if I feel like doing this recursively. Oh, wait. You will not be allowed to spawn the same particle type on step or death as the one that's currently emitting. Either directly or indirectly, it is update type and death type. And because that would be a fork bomb, and I was initially going to allow you to do that if you wanted to, but then I decided it's not worth it. Would it be... Okay, so it is no one versus null. That's just one line. I can do it the lazy way. Okay. That's the iterative way. The recursive way would work, but it would be very ugly. And unnecessary since this is only a few lines of code. Let's see. I have a default type. I should not be allowed to set... No, it is letting me do that. That's wrong already. Did the whole thing just freeze? The whole thing just froze. I'm not sure why that didn't work. You would think that wouldn't have been the, you'd think that would not have been the most complicated logic. Interesting. It should definitely be showing the warning there. All right, so if I have it go in circles, why is it going in circles? Print out to the rescue. If this gets ugly, I will use the debugger. My code has been warned. I wish this would not take so long to load, but I can't really complain there. All right, so what is it printing out? I am type 1, I'm checking the default type. Okay, so that's a separate, okay. The problem is coming from the opposite end. So when I do that, oh, right. Checking in the wrong order. That is not quite safe. That makes sense. I should have thought about that the first time. Save myself 5 minutes. So now it should disallow me to do that. It did not disallow me to do that. Why didn't it disallow me to do that? In a loop, check the emissive type. if it equals the type that you're checking, create the notice and stop. Otherwise you may continue checking the next emissive type. I would say that should do it, except I've said that about the last two things I've tried, and those did not work. Okay, I should probably also deselect the list when I do that. And that indeed did not allow me to. Okay. I will add another warning here. And then I will do the same for def types. And that should work for indirect types, indirect emission, right? Hang on, can I? Can I just straighten this out a little bit? Oh no, I don't want to do those both in the loop at the same time. Okay. That should do it. First, I can skip this. I don't need a while true in there. Let's try that again. While true on principle is a little bit risky. Not that it is, because I know in this case that it'll eventually terminate, but the fewer of those in my code, the better. So that should be disallowed. I have not looked at the list for def type yet. I cannot do that. If I select something that isn't, it will freeze. Perfect. Do I need to print that out again? We got part of the way there. I thought it was going to get all the way there, but apparently not. I'd like to finish this on stream. I'd like to finish this before the 2-hour mark and then go off to do other things. Interesting. Okay, so that is currently disallowed. What did I do the last time to get it to freeze then? That would be a loop, that would also be a loop, that would also be a loop. It's not freezing. Why did it freeze the first time? Was it something to do with the death type? Let us... Alright, so default will select 1. We'll emit 1 on death. 1 will emit default on death. I am not able to get it to freeze again. I don't know what I did. Now I'm just clicking stuff randomly. I guess to be safe, if something goes that horribly wrong and it gets to that point, it will just break out of the loop anyway. That will just cause it to not deselect if something was already selected and you try to do that. That's just like UI fluff, really. Alright, type 1 is going to emit default. Then we're going to try and emit ourselves, and it's going to not allow us to do that. Default is going to try emitting type 1, which is also recursive and not allowed to do that. Okay. Then I'll just do that with the death type also. Okay. I could put that in its own function, in its own script somewhere, but I'm only going to be using it in those two places. I don't really care about having clean code that much. There's a lot of duplicated code in this project. Can we emit ourselves on death? We cannot. That would be a self-perpetuating explosion. If we emit the default type on death and the... Okay. That sounds clean. So we can't go recursive in any in the update or on death. Okay. That was a lot easier than the other one. What was the other thing I wanted to do? Probability of particle spawning per step. I'll do that some other time. I might do that off stream. I do want to stop now. It's getting about to the 2-hour mark. To everyone who is here, I think there is a viewer list somewhere, but I don't know if that's like up to date because I know on Twitch it usually isn't. Thank you for dropping by. I will try to do this sooner than like another month from now because I know I said I wanted to do this more often and then didn't for an entire month. I might do more of this in the future. I might go with 3D particles because, as I said earlier, I wanted to do an editor with 3D particles as well at some point. I might do an editor of some other sort. I might actually do game dev. Who knows? But I will see you all later. I'll probably mention doing this in a channel announcement at some point, so keep an eye on those. Where's the finish stream button?